Good shot.
Good morning, everybody. This is the Dawn Patrol, 6 to 7, and we have City Life from 7 to 8. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I'm your host for the next about 2 hours. And my co-hosts Sam Chase and Bob Hoey are here. Welcome back, Bob.
Oh, we're glad you're back, Bob. We really are. We missed you guys. Yeah, we did.
You added an extra dimension to the program, which is always favorable.
That's why you're in the middle.
Usually I'm in the middle, figuratively speaking. John McDonough is behind the camera, sometimes on the camera. I always try to make sure that if he's going to make a comment, he's on the camera. And that way then we can focus on the important stuff that he has to say. We'll put important in quotes because it depends upon what you think is important and what you don't. Anyway, so it's raining outside, but it's not raining enough. It's in the 50s. Yesterday it was in the 80s. We always talk at the beginning of the program about
They said
weather.
It was supposed to stop around 9 o'clock, but like you said, we're going to get just a very light sprinkle.
I already felt that very light, yeah.
Yeah, well, I could hear it because we haven't taken the air conditioners out yet. You never know when the temperature's going to change in New England, that's for sure. So there was something, so there's a number of topics that we'll talk about in the first hour. Glenn Thoren is coming in for the second hour. Obviously, that's going to be more politics.
Dr. Glenn Thoren, and I'm glad to see that our producer recognizes that and puts that in there.
Well, he can discuss briefly about what his PhD is in. I don't know if everybody will understand it. I did type most of his thesis, and so since I had a degree in chemistry at the time, I kind of understood what he was doing because I had taken a course. I think the course was Advanced Physical Chemistry, and they had gone into what that distribution was with electrons moving and a number of things. I won't go into it because I don't know that anybody this early really wants to know.
Well, I will say this, that there are PhDs and there are PhDs.
Well,
And not to denigrate any particular academic discipline, but I'm sorry, PhD in applied sciences, electrical engineering, physics, and things like that, they're not the equivalent of a PhD in Middle English studies, okay? I'm just going to say that.
Well, that's okay.
We'll put that out there, okay?
I'm going to say this about all that. When you have doctor in front of your name, I would recommend you don't work for the low school system, because anybody I've ever seen with doctor in front of their name, they want to get rid of them, and I don't know why.
It's a target, you're saying?
Oh, yeah, you have a target on your back.
So if you want to apply for a high-level administrative position in Lowell, make sure that if you do have a PhD, make sure you don't talk about it. Is that the recommendation?
Yeah,
Okay.
that goes back a long time for me, Sam. Dr. Helen Flanagan, I was basically, I had a crush on her. She was so great of a person, and she did such a great job at HR, which HR, Sam, I learned the hard way, but HR is a really important job.
It's extreme. Well, in the old days, we called it personnel, and then sometime in the late 80s, the title changed to human resources, which really is, you know how I feel about buzzwords, but I'm going to make an exception in that case. I think human resources is actually a better and more descriptive title than personnel, and so I'm glad that they do call it that. And you're absolutely right. It's anybody who's managed other people in organizations knows how important and critical that function is. You're absolutely right.
Well, since we're talking about PhDs and what you can get your PhD in, there was an article, I sent it out, I don't know if you had time to read it or anything, and this was from...
I've been too busy working on tax rates.
This was from Newsweek. 4 college majors most likely to leave students unemployed.
Oh, okay, good. What are they?
And they are criminal justice, performing arts, art history, leisure, and hospitality and liberal arts.
I would agree with that.
Well,
I think that's right.
Right, but I think that liberal arts kind of is very broad.
That's probably the least restrictive, because that a liberal arts degree has a broader application than criminal justice, for example.
Well, it does explain each of them, and it also said that criminal justice saw an unemployment rate of 2.8%. The other degrees range from 4 to 8%. But individuals go into criminal justice because there's a lot of jumping off points with regard to that. It's just not being a police officer.
Well,
or
that's,
a you could be a DA.
that's
you could be
the
all kinds of
question.
things.
That's the question. You're talking about unemployment, but how many of those criminal justice degree people are employed in disciplines that are not related to criminal justice? Do they make that distinction or not? Because I know people who have criminal justice degrees and they're doing something that isn't even remotely related to criminal justice.
Well, there's a lot of people that are like that because they
Right.
can't get a job in their
Right,
major.
exactly.
I was taught by my grandmother, that's why she took me in at 10 years old, and she taught me one thing. She says, make sure you're hanging around with people that do the right things. Because I was hanging around with some,
Did your grandmother know my father?
I don't know, but,
I'm telling you, listening to you, my
Yeah.
father and your grandmother had the same philosophy about just about everything.
all right, but I'll say this about when we were talking about degrees. Going back to 7 years, I was on the school committee. I hung around with people that were educated, and I was the one that wasn't educated. But I know what I taught my granddaughter, my oldest one. She's 24. I told her, go into STEM. Okay,
Good
become
advice.
I said, become as good as you can with math. Take any type of math you can get. She ended up being a civil engineer, which I'm so proud of her. It's crazy. But now, after what I just went through with my wife going through, a lot of hospital stuff because of breast cancer, what I've learned now is if you're a female, even a male, don't get me wrong, but females, go toward being an anesthesiologist or a psychiatrist. Those are the two that I see their money, and I was going to say software engineer, but I see that starting to decline. The two top jobs that I see, anesthesiologist, incredible people. Oh, I mean it, they're unbelievable, especially if you have to do a 9-hour surgery and they gotta worry about everything from your thyroid to your heart and everything else in between. And I believe they're number one now, money-wise. They make more than a surgeon. But the most important person I met through this experience at Brigham and Women's was what they call a PCA. It's almost like a paraprofessional. It's someone that's in school, because we had one, she's a junior, an adopted Chinese girl. She was a junior at Northeastern, going to be a nurse. Incredible work she did for us, that's all I can say.
What do the initials PCA stand for?
Personal care assistant,
Okay,
I believe.
all right.
I don't know if it's the
I
exact
don't know,
term.
I've
Personal
been in and
care
out of
assistant.
hospitals
Yeah.
over the past, 5-6 years. I don't remember anybody that was like that. But I did not go to Brigham and Women's because that wasn't why I was in a hospital. I had 4 joints replaced
Right.
over time. And I think that they need to make sure that if you go into the medical profession, that you do take a certain amount of psychology courses and behavioral psychology courses so that you understand the age bracket of your patient and then how to deal with them based upon whatever is going on and that. And I think they do train people. It's like that. But we were talking about maybe. I'll let you finish. Go
I'll
ahead.
be done in 30
That's all
seconds.
right. Take your time.
The reason why I looked at this PCA girl, an adopted Chinese girl, come over to this country, someone adopted her, and I mean, she was the best nurse that I've ever seen working with a patient. Let me say it that way. Because nurses now are stuck on a computer. They have basically one function, medication. Watch, the doctor says give them this, and they're spending so much time on a computer, they very seldom come in a room. The one that's
Right.
putting a new dressing on and doing everything else for you is the one that it was called a PCA. I'll never forget this girl. I'm going to go look for it so I can buy her some flowers. That's how great she was. And she's the paraprofessional of the medical field. That's all I'll say.
Well, that's
all I'll say.
You're right. Now, when I was in college, I worked in a hospital. This was, John would say, this was back in the dark ages, in the mid-1960s, okay? And the nurses, most of them were RNs, full-blown registered nurses with a few LPNs. But they did everything. I mean, they came in, they changed the bedpans, they did all of the work. And what's happened since those days, and not that I'm not going to pretend that I'm really knowledgeable in this area, but I do know a lot of people in the medical field, nurses and doctors. And what I'm told, I'll put it that way, what the professionals tell me that what's happened is the nursing profession has been elevated because back when I worked there, you didn't have to have a degree to be a registered nurse. You had to go through 3 years of nurses training, and then you took the state boards and you became a nurse and you were certified and you were fully qualified. But now you have to have at least a 4-year degree to be a nurse, and most of them want master's degrees. So what's happened over the last several years is the nursing profession has been elevated, because of those requirements, and now they are considered mostly manager types. So they don't do bedpans, they don't do any of that stuff, and that's all now,
Pull his mic.
that's all now gone to your PCAs, and
Yeah.
so the nurses now are on a higher management administrative level plane than they were 30 or 40 years ago. This is what the medical people tell me has happened in the profession, so I...
Just want to focus a little bit more
Yeah.
on the mic here.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, but anyway, that's...
Also,
yeah.
I want to just note that now, if you're watching us on Facebook,
My wife?
No, if you're
No.
watching us.
if you're watching us on
Oh,
Facebook,
I'm sorry. Yep.
there's a little link above to brings you to YouTube. That'll give you better audio, and
Perfect.
it'll be exactly what we'll put out there. Facebook shut off the software that I use to put the show out to all the public access stations. So it shut that software off. So the workaround is I have my phone focused on the TV set in the other room that is watching the YouTube presentation of this show. And that's my workaround to continue to keep it on Facebook.
There you go.
But consider clicking that link, and I'll show you the little link. Okay, so if this is going to change quick, but this link right here, if you click this link,
Well, that's good enough.
you just do this,
Yeah,
and you end up, it brings you right to the show at the speed of government.
perfect.
That's a better
And here, there I am, drinking some coffee.
Little bit of a delay, little bit of a delay. Oh, that's a
Well,
good,
I didn't
yeah.
hit play yet. If you hit play, I don't know what it's going to,
Well, it's live.
That's good.
And we also want people to know that this is an unscripted show.
Well, I'm almost done, Ev.
Go ahead.
So, if you go to YouTube and you just hit City Life Show, those 3 words, YouTube, City Life Show, it'll bring you to all the shows we put out there.
There you go.
So, and if you like us, I don't know what happens, so just put a like thing there or follow us.
Ring the bell.
Back to you guys, yeah.
I think that's, I give you a lot of credit for being able to figure all that stuff out. It's a real Rube Goldberg, what he's done there, this touches that gets you on the thing. But what I found, and this is not a knock on our local telemedia in Chelmsford, it could be my cable service, I don't know. But what I found is if I want to watch the local Chelmsford telemedia, the quality is better if I watch it on YouTube on my computer than it is if I watch it on my TV set with the broadcast. So, and they put all of their programs on YouTube. So if you don't have a cable account, you can still watch local cable TV if you have a computer, internet connection and YouTube. And that's how I watch all my CTM programs, because the picture quality is so much better, at least in
And you
my...
need to look at the microphones.
Yeah, in my house anyway, it's better, so that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes from week to week we forget.
Yeah, well, that's okay, I've got the thing.
But to finish about all
Yeah.
of the different majors in that, there was this article that was on Newsweek. If anybody's interested in all of the details, it gives the percentages of the unemployment or the unemployed employability of certain majors, and that it's a discredit to the students that they're not told before they pick a major that they will not be getting a job when they leave,
Yeah.
or they may be required to get additional education. It seems as though there is a beginning of a change in if you have a college education, you can get a job. I think some of that may have had to do with COVID and the fact when people stayed home, they found out that they actually could work from home or at a different location other than just going into a job all the time. That's not with all the hands-on, obviously it's not with nurses. Although you do have people that are nurses that are in some of the what do they call them, the HMOs? And so if you call your doctor, you can get a nurse, and she can, talk about things, decide whether or not you need an appointment, and ad infinitum and all the different things that goes along there. But now, everybody's got a portal link. I don't know if everybody out there has one, but each doctor that I have, I think I have 3 different portals because I've got 3 different ways to contact the respective doctors that I have, and I had sent a message, so I didn't actually get, I don't know if I'm being charged, but I didn't have to get an appointment with the doctor, because the blood pressure medication that I'm taking, the side effect is a cough. So I'm tired of coughing, and last night I think I might have had 2 hours of sleep. So she's going to change that to what I had a long time ago. Now, if I could drop weight, I'd be fine.
Easier said than done.
Because that's a key piece. We could talk about diet and exercise and all the other stuff at another point in time.
Well, and as you know, the older you get, the harder it is to manage your weight. It's very difficult. I think I'm very careful about what I really do watch what I eat very carefully, because I've had a weight problem all my life, and I've had to manage it.
Well, I haven't had a weight problem all my life.
It's gotten worse as I've gotten older.
I've weighed 280 at one time.
I'm not telling anybody how much I weigh or how much I did weigh.
Well, it's nobody's business.
4
I don't
days.
mind age.
No,
but I
it's
do
a
mind
chick
weight.
thing. It's a chick thing. They all weigh 25 pounds. They all
da-
want to look like Bobby.
4 days from
They want to
now,
look like Fred Flintstone.
4 days from now, I'll be 70,
That's cute.
and I'm the youngest one in this room right now. But when you bring up medical stuff,
Well, you're going to be the youngest one in the room when Ken gets here, too.
when your family goes through something very severe medically, it just takes everybody down a step for a while.
Absolutely right.
But since Tuesday I was back on the show, and John had a couple of doctors from LASA over here in Lowell. It's called Love All, Serve All,
Yep.
and they have a free clinic.
Is that this
And
weekend?
and I've already, it'll be coming up in the ads. Don't
We've had
worry
that. We've
about
had
it.
them on.
Yeah, you did.
We've had them on here.
But to me, it's awesome because, even if you just went over to get your blood pressure checked, a lot of people don't have insurance. I know a lot of people that don't have insurance.
Yep.
I've already told about a half dozen people about this. Go over, get a quick checkup. I'm going to go over just to have my eyes examined, but I could go to my regular eye doctor, but I'm going to go to this
There
place
you go.
here.
Free medical clinic and
Yeah, I
health
think
screening.
it's one of the best things I've seen
Yeah, Saturday
around.
morning, start 8:30 at the old Elks Club in Lowell, behind the new, over in Pawtuckettville, right behind the new, the Market Basket is the old Elks Club, and that's where the Sire Unity Center is, and they're utilizing that facility for a free health clinic starting 8:30 a.m. just this Saturday. It's 8:30 a.m. Saturday. Get over there, 8:30 to 1. You can just walk in, and they'll take a look at you at the door, and they'll send you to whatever doctor you have a need for, and it's free. Zip it. They don't take any insurance. It's free.
That's great. Now, they've been doing this for a number of years. Do you have any idea?
Third year, I think it was.
Yeah, how well attended? Do they get a real crowd?
250.
They get a real.
They get 250 people. They're happy with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would.
They want to grow that, but
Yeah.
they're all the doctors show up for free.
Gee, I'm surprised it isn't more. Really.
Well, give it
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's word of mouth and people just don't know it. And I think it's a wonderful thing, and to commend them for giving their time with regard to doing things along those lines. So a lot of times when we talk about medical stuff, part of it may be what you eat.
You are what you eat. They always said that, right?
Well, it's true. We're very much concerned about all the
Yep.
additional chemicals that's in the food. One of the articles I read was, I think it was Kellogg's. They do something different with what they ship to other countries from this country.
You mean the Cheerios that we eat here aren't the same as the ones that they eat in France? Is that
No,
what
the
you're
Fruit
saying?
Loops.
Oh, Fruit
Anything
Loops?
that has
Okay.
artificial colors and flavors.
Oh, God, I don't eat
in
that
it
stuff.
is different composition that they send to those countries because they have a different quality, a different standard that they have to meet.
Well, that's true.
And
Right.
there's, in this country, the some of the chemicals that's in the food, in the, like the Fruit Loops and the different kinds of cereals that they put out for kids and all the sugar and all that other stuff, some of it is very toxic over a period of time. So you want to be very cautious about what your children or grandchildren eat, and learn how to read labels. Maybe what we'll do is I'll take pictures of labels and I can go through one and show everybody how to read it at some point in time. It wouldn't take very long because there's a lot of common things that they put in there, but a lot of the names of things, people don't know what it is.
Well, you can't even pronounce half of them, right?
Right, but there are common names for them. And why they don't use the common names is beyond me, but we're not going to get into that detail because I need to do a little bit more research.
I'll tell you a funny story about what you're talking about. So 1,000 years ago, when I was working in Fitchburg, and a very close colleague, Bob McGilvery, used to go to the vending machine every morning and get something to eat, 10 o'clock, coffee and donuts or whatever. And we were out there at the vending machine one morning, and he puts his money in, and he's getting a donut out of the machine. So the donut comes out, and he picks it up, and he starts to read the ingredients on the wrapper. And of course, he can't pronounce half the stuff. And I looked at him, and I said, Bob, there's no donut in there. And he laughed. He said, you're right. Maybe I should reconsider eating this thing. Where's the donut? There's no donut in there.
Well,
So to your point, read the labels.
Yeah.
You'd be
When I-
shocked.
This is out of this morning's little son, and poor President Biden, when they create this picture,
New Hampshire, huh?
they are shooting their camera 400 frames per second. So they can make you smile, they can make you frown, because they're taking 400 pictures of you every second.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think the media is turning on President Biden, because this is just a terrible picture of him, and there were 400 other pictures taken that second.
John, when they're done with you, they're done with you, okay?
Seems as if they're turning on Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Right,
when they're
and so-
done with you, they're done with you, all right? And I think I think it's disgrace. I was never a fan of President Biden as a president, okay? But I think what his people, the Democrats, have done to him is just absolutely despicable and disgraceful, okay? And all this talk about President Trump, former President Trump, and the lie. Yes, he is a liar. Trump is a liar. He tells a lot of lies. Yes, he does.
So does everybody.
But let me tell you something. It pales in comparison to the lie for almost 4 years the Democrats have told us about Joe Biden. It pales. 4 years they lied to us about this man's capacity and his ability. And I'll tell you, if it weren't at that level and if it weren't these people, you could charge them with elder abuse. It is absolutely disgraceful what they've done to that man. And whether you agree with his politics or the Democrat politics is beside the point. That man, President Biden, has given his entire life to the service of the country and to his party, his entire life. And this is how they treat him. I think it is disgraceful and despicable behavior. End of rant.
Yeah,
What do you
Okay,
think?
fine, because I know that
Right.
Glenn will talk about this at the 7 o'clock.
I'm sorry, I should have held it till 7.
that's
No, we can repeat it again
Okay.
because there's different.
I don't know if I can say it that
Rest
well.
assured,
again.
nobody watches 2 hours. Rest
Okay,
assured.
okay, so I'll consider that this is a rehearsal, okay?
Yes,
All
yeah.
right, there you go.
Because a lot of times, when we have a guest, there's things
Yeah.
that we talk about in the first hour, we will repeat in
Yeah.
the second hour, and you get a different kind of a spin on it, or you get a different opinion because we've had a time to actually think
Mm-hmm.
about it.
I
But,
love what you brought up too about health, because
Mm.
I know I weighed 280 at one time. I went in the Army, I weighed about 254. 16 weeks later, I come home, I weighed 195 and got married.
I beat you.
That's okay.
I lost 90 pounds in basic training.
But then I had
90 pounds I lost in basic training.
Then in my life, I had a job in the prisons,
True
right?
story.
And
How
I
did you
seen.
pull that off, Sam?
I didn't. That was courtesy of United
I
States
just-
Army.
Yep.
I went in weighing 235 pounds, and when I came out of basic training 14 weeks later, I weighed 145 pounds. They knocked 90 pounds off of me.
Yeah, we went to Fort Puke
Because there were
for-
no Twinkies? What happened? No Twinkies?
Right,
no
I mean,
cupcakes?
you eat what they give you, and the physical training is torture. It's torture.
John McDonough would
Yeah,
have a very
torture.
hard time, because I know what they did to
Yeah.
me when they seen how much I weighed, Sam.
Yeah.
In the morning, you'd get an egg. You'd get like 4
Yeah.
ounces of orange juice and a half a slice of toast.
yep.
That's what you'd get.
Oh, no, it was-
John would be in trouble.
It was
He
torture.
likes food.
Yes, I would be.
Yeah,
I would
It was
do that.
torture.
But I would, and then
dessert?
and I'll be done in a second on this issue, but then I worked in a prison for 20 years, and I seen what a lot of people did. They overdosed on alcohol and cigarettes. The day my father died in 2000, I gave up cigarettes. It wasn't easy, but I got rid of
Good for
them.
you.
And I'll tell you something right now. To me, yes, Evelyn, it is what we eat, but people don't realize how bad cigarette smoke is.
Oh, brutal.
And an overdosing of alcohol, meaning drinking upwards of 15 beers every day, 7 days a week. You just can't
15
do this.
beers?
Yes, and so many of the people that I'm talking about that I worked with are gone. They're already gone. Most of them
Well, the
don't
human
make it to
body-
55.
If they're
I'm telling
smoking
you.
and drinking to that extent.
Right. The
it's-
human body
yeah.
can only take so
Right.
much. Now, there are ways to counter that, but it's very difficult at that volume to counter it. So if somebody says, well, what do you mean by countering it? If you hydrate, so you have water, this is the alcohol aspect of it. You can't really counter the effects of the cigarettes if you're continuing to smoke, because there's nothing you can do as far as the lung goes. It's a filter. So, but as far as the alcohol goes, the alcohol will affect the body in a variety of ways. You have liver, pancreas, and it may be kidneys. And then, there's a whole pile of things that are connected with regard to that. Throat cancer, depends on what you drink, and, there's stomach cancer. But as far as trying to counter some of that, you can always use your telephone and you can Google the detox type of things, but you have naturally occurring substances that do cleanse liver, pancreas, kidneys, whatever, and they're out there. You've got, because I had an aunt that consistently...
So, Ev, I'm drinking 15 beers a day. What do I do?
So I had
Stop.
I had an aunt that liked to, I think she used to do more like, whiskey and bourbon and all that stuff. This is a long time ago, and she's been gone a while. But what she would do would be to eat dandelion greens often. And dandelion greens or roots and
Eat dandelions.
dandelion,
Greens,
yeah,
the
greens,
greens. Not the-
dandelions.
not the flower, the
Well, you could
greens.
eat the flower if you want to, but I
Well,
wouldn't
the
suggest
problem with
it.
dandelion greens is
They're very bitter.
They got to be picked at the right time,
Well,
and
yeah.
if you screw up, it's poison. Okay, so you
Well, I
have to
didn't
be
know about
careful.
that, but,
yeah, yeah.
because they sell all kinds of stuff in the grocery store today. But her thing was to pick them before they bloomed in the spring.
That's when you have to
And those
do
are
it.
like the baby
Right,
greens. But I mean,
right.
she used to just like inhale them. But I mean, everybody has a different thing. That cleanses liver. So does milk thistle. And
Milk
thistle.
thistle.
Yes.
Oh, boy, the things I learn in the
What
morning.
is milk thistle? You're going to tell us what milk thistle is? I have no idea. Do you?
Anyway, I'm just going to make the list, and people
No,
can
no,
do a little
no,
bit more
no,
research.
no, Evelyn, no, you must tell us.
We have to know
What
what
is
milk thistle.
Well, I'm assuming that's.
Oh!
See, I don't know. I never even looked
Look
it
it
up.
up. Look it up. See what it is.
So.
Milk thistle.
I'll look up milk thistle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look it up, and then
Let's
you
find
put
out
it up
what it
there,
is.
then people will know better than listening to me, because
Milk
most of the time,
thistle.
people would rather see something than hear it. But anyway, so there's milk thistle that is good for that, and then you have a whole list of things that you can have that also helps other things. All right, and all of that stuff is all online. So if I want to do, a smoothie in the morning,
There you go, milk thistle. And
see, liver products.
so
It's
20
not-
bucks. Amazon has milk thistle. For
You can get it at
21 bucks.
You can get it at CVS. How much is it? Did you say?
21 bucks at
Okay, at
It's not-
CVS it's $18.79.
Save some dough.
There we go.
It's not cheap anymore. It used to come in tea form, but they don't have it
What
anymore.
does milk thistle? What is milk thistle?
You can even get it in a gummy. It says it right
Well,
there.
you can with magnesium.
Yeah.
And vitamin D. So people that have trouble taking pills, you can have chewables.
It is a
It's a-
plant in the daisy family that has been used to treat liver and gallbladder disease. Okay, that's what it is, according to Wikipedia.
And when you're
Well,
a diet,
here's another mouthful.
Yeah,
Syllabum, oh boy, look at all these fancy words.
Silybum
Marianum
marianum.
is this, Evelyn,
But there's all kinds of thistle.
I ain't taking this, sorry.
Silyburnum marianum is a species of thistle.
Yeah, and you see the thistles out there. They're
Well, that doesn't tell me anything.
So you've got seeds, you've got all
Okay.
Take that thistle
Anyway.
idea and
All right.
goodbye.
You can buy it in a bottle at CVS.
You don't want to though.
Oh, you can have it as tea.
You don't want that either.
Oh, God.
Hey, you know,
I don't mind. I take it.
I have this philosophy, if I can't pronounce it, I don't eat it, right?
I get a kick out of these people that say like, this tastes terrible, try it.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm not gonna try
If you
it.
can't pronounce it, folks, don't eat it.
But anyway, everybody needs to do
Stay away from thistle.
a
Right.
certain amount of research with regard to all of the different things out there. But I read an article which I thought was of interest. I don't know if I could ever drink it, but it's a smoothie and it's made with kale, kefir, which is like a yogurt, liquid yogurt.
Ugh.
Yeah, and a few other things. And it's
Kale.
supposed to be a cleansing, whatever it is for your body.
I'll stay dirty.
Well, if it tastes bad, it's probably good for you.
I'm going to
right?
let you know because I'm going to try it.
Right.
Kale is very difficult to digest in the raw form, but we do a lot of spinach. There's a lot of berries.
I love spinach.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Spinach is, I love spinach.
The only thing you have to be careful about with the spinach is kidney stones. Sometimes people have it. It depends on what
That's-
kind you get.
right, that's
because of
what
the
the-
oxalate that's
That's
in
what
it.
the,
I
when I
like
had my
cream
kidney
spinach
stone, the doctor
myself.
told me I couldn't eat spinach. And I said, well, that's one of my favorite vegetables. What am I supposed to do?
So, I mean,
Right.
you never know what you might
Yeah.
learn. I like to put a few things in, the teacher and me wants people to know what it is that they're doing. But there's an awful lot of things that's like that, that's out there that people are not aware of. But you did ask, what can you do to counter it? And these are the things you do to counter it, is within your diet.
Milk
you-
thistle.
You have, and spinach,
No.
and dandelions, and there's avocado.
Turning the
and-
page to a more fun subject than tasteless, yucky food.
No, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, I did cook. I mean, I baked. So I made something that's not necessarily good for you. I made cheese Danish,
Love that. Thank you, Evelyn.
lemon flavor.
That's a heart attack waiting to happen, right?
Well, you're not supposed to eat all of it.
Hey,
one piece
nobody
at a
gets out
time.
of here alive. How many times?
There you
did I tell
go.
that?
Yeah, we're gonna eat, we're gonna
You want to be a
eat you to
box or a
death.
jar? What do you want? A box?
Well, I also, I'd rather bring the cheese Danish because that's associated with breakfast, even though you're not supposed to have all these pastry stuff. But I made brownies, and that was really interesting because then what I did was I have like a toffee thing that goes on the top of it. It's like eating candy. It's really good.
What do you think about McDonald's? They had to get rid of the quarter pounder or something like that?
Yeah, because of E. coli.
Has onions, the onions are contaminated.
Oh, I didn't see
Something
that.
is, and they're always finding something.
They put onions in the hamburger mix at McDonald's? I didn't know
that
that.
was,
No, it's when it's all put together.
Oh, okay.
that was
But
just the
it's-
media again. Trump had something positive at
I was just gonna
McDonald's,
say
they
that.
come out the
Well,
next day and go after Trump.
That's what I thought when I
You
saw
know,
it, yeah.
We're getting, if I can hit that issue just
Yeah,
a
go
second.
ahead,
And
Bob.
I miss being here. I love what you started with this thistle. That is good stuff.
Yum, yum, eat 'em
But,
up.
Milk
you know,
thistle.
Take a pill.
I would say to people, especially if you're pro-Trump, relax. This is what people do, like the media is doing, and I'll try to make you know how I feel. I fought in the Golden Gloves in Lowell just one time, and I actually won. But in the second round, I was losing. And when you start to lose, I wanted to kick him. Now, you can't kick someone in boxing, but my mind says you better kick this kid somewhere because he's going to beat you. And I outlasted him and I won the fight. But the point is, that's what the media is doing. They're behind. Trump, I've been sitting on the show quite a while. I don't miss the show. I try not to. My wife lets me come anytime I want. Trump's ahead. I deal with so many different people on so many levels,
Yeah,
and I walk around with a
explain
Trump.
that. Tell us about that.
I walk around with a Trump hat on almost all the time. Now and then I'll have an Eric Gitcher hat on, but a Trump Save America shirt. It's black with a white Trump. I think it's his, when they booked him into the jail. I think that's the picture. And I'm telling you, you would expect to get more negativity.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I've been up in New Hampshire a lot, which I believe New Hampshire is becoming Massachusetts. And I believe Massachusetts, if we look at the numbers when this election's over, I think there's going to be and this is Massachusetts. Trump's got a lot more support in this state than I would ever dream of. You would never think of it in Massachusetts, because this state is definitely always Democrat, and there's still going to be a Democrat.
Oh, without a doubt.
I know that, but I'm going to I want to see how many deplorables there are in this state.
Well,
Get
they're-
out
they're
and
not
vote.
They're not just calling people that support him deplorables, they're calling people that support him fascists. That's at least 50% of the country. So if you love your country and you want to express yourself by supporting a particular candidate, if the other side doesn't like it, there's a list of accusations and descriptors of those people that is overwhelming sometimes to me of where they go with stuff. And with a lot of what's going on currently is when they do all of these surveys, I don't know that I believe the surveys or the polls.
No, you
We'll
can't.
talk about this with Glenn, because he's been
cannot.
following this quite a bit.
No, I only
And he
brought
has
it
some
up to get you going. That's all I did it for.
No, go ahead.
You should have listened to me last week.
Well,
but that's-
because...
But this
Go
is
ahead.
very interesting, Bob. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought it up.
Right, but maybe that's what you currently experience. But there are, like I said, I read the Google articles, they come from, liberal media, they come from conservative media, things I never heard of, outside the country, private podcasts, whatever it is that's out there, it'll come across because of the topics. But one of the topics is don't put a Trump sticker on your car and don't put one in your yard. This is freedom that we're giving up because
Exactly.
other people are going to attack you, or they'll scratch your car, or there's vandalism that occurs. And this, to me, is very, very unacceptable within the country. Now, again, like I said, I would, because there's so much political stuff that Glenn is watching and we all are watching, I'd like to keep a lot of the discussion from the 7 to 8 o'clock time frame.
Okay.
John?
I just want to put out there, my friend Marie Sweeney,
Marie Sweeney, yes.
strong Democrat.
Oh, without a doubt.
Somebody stole all her signs in front of her house.
Kamala Harris signs and.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's.
I don't think
it's
it's
just-
limited to one party.
Oh, no, it goes, yeah, exactly.
It's on an individual basis.
outrageous.
What is the game of doing that?
I don't know, they used to steal my signs when I was running for selectman, I lost an awful lot of signs.
Well, my
and
wife
that's
has
just
a rule,
local.
she does not allow signs on the property.
Yeah, well, you have
you
a
have a
business and you
business.
have to be cautious
Yeah,
when you have a
that's-
Oh, I
business.
had him one year, she said, never again,
No, for you, that's a good rule.
never
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
You know, the demographics of this race, they talk about getting the Spanish vote, the black vote. Listen, it's going to be, and I see it in Lowell. Women for Trump. I see more of it than I ever could imagine. And we're in Massachusetts, so even, I know Trump's going to get bombed in Massachusetts, but
Yeah, but
guess
there's a lot of
what?
lies out there with regard to what they're feeding women.
I think women.
Well,
Wait.
I would just say one thing, and my life experience has borne this out, and I firmly believe this. So if you've got two opposing points of view, and they're having an argument, a discussion, and they're trying to prevail, and they're discussing, you hope they focus on the issues or the topics, whatever it is that.
Yeah, get away
is
from
of
personality.
Concern. So my experience says that when one side is losing, or they don't have any substantive thing to say, once they can't argue on the merits of the issue, and they descend to name-calling and personal
Kick 'em.
attacks.
That's my point.
They're losing, okay?
You're right.
Because if they can argue against you using facts and proof and data and results, and that's fine. But when they can't do that, now they don't have anything to say. So all they can do is attack you personally. So that's something that I have noticed over the years. And what is interesting to me, though, about this particular race is, and I'll give you just a little bit of demographics. So I went back and I looked at the 2016 results because of, 2020 and, the election was stolen and all this other stuff. So I wanted to go back and validate some data. So in the Merrimack Valley, and that's Chelmsford, Lowell, Tingsboro, Billerica, and Dracut. I think I looked at those communities. In 2016, Trump carried 40% of the vote in those towns, which I thought was high, okay, considering, the kind of the left-wing perspective of the Merrimack Valley. So that was in 2016. In 2020, he carried 35%, so he lost 5% in those 4 years, okay? And so just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this current election cycle, because looking back to 2020 and looking at what I'm seeing today, clearly the enthusiasm for Trump was down in 2020, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that. All right.
Well, there was a lot of lies.
And there's always a lot. There's always a lot of lies. Okay.
Misinformation.
But this
Talk about
particular
misinformation.
cycle, I'm not seeing that. And what I am seeing is I'm seeing more people. They call it the low propensity voter or the marginalized voter, whatever they want to call it. I'm seeing more people on the Trump side engaging. And what you may have, and I'm not going to make any predictions, but what you may have this time is more people going to the polls, more people on the Trump side casting ballots, okay?
Well, a lot of people
So,
are very tired
We'll
of
see.
going to the
We'll s-
grocery store
we'll
and
see what
having to make
happens.
choices because
Yeah.
they only have so much money to spend. But we, like I said, these are things that Glenn and I have talked
Yeah.
about and listened to for quite a bit, and had some discussion on, but it's difficult when you have a discussion and you all agree. It's nice to have a little bit of difference of opinion, but you mentioned the woman vote. One of the things that has bothered me is that they focus so much on this abortion thing, and I'm listening to the ads that's in New Hampshire, and most of them are outright lies.
Oh, yes, I agree with you.
Unbelievable what it is that they're saying about the
Absolute-
other
yeah,
candidates.
absolutely lies, right.
And it's not true, and somebody will say, well, this is what's out there. But if you listen to the candidates, or you followed them for quite a few years up to this point, I can make my own decision. I don't need to have Fox News or my husband tell me what it is that is my opinion. I can form my own opinion based upon what it is that I hear. And when there was different things that they were concerned about with Trump saying that, with Harris and Biden saying, I heard them say it. I didn't need to
Right,
have
exactly.
any filter with regard to, I need to have this reporter tell me what they said. I don't need to do that. But when we're talking about...
Apparently, a lot of people do need that because they do
That's because
it.
they're lazy. But they want to be told what to think and where to go.
All I know
It's
is
easier that way.
if the President of the United States gives a speech for 15 minutes, I watch the speech. And when he's done, I shut the TV off. Because to your point, Evelyn, I don't need 5 talking heads telling me what I just heard.
Yeah, but a lot of times they point out different things and I go, I didn't hear that. So I mean,
Yeah.
in essence, I'm having the conversation on by myself on the other side of the television. But we're talking about women's rights or privileges or whatever it is that they have. And there's a lot of things, I mean, being a woman, when they talk about the abortion issue, the lie is that they want to get rid of it completely. If you bring it back to the state can make that decision.
It's always
You have
been that
liberal
way.
states, which is what they had when I was growing up. You have liberal states and you have conservative states. You have the right to go to another state to be able to, if that's something that you need to have.
That's the beauty of the federal system. We have choices.
But there's, even though I have a particular view, we need to be able to have the option that if the mother's life is at stake, or the baby has died in utero, or if there's some genetic defect and you're going to have something that is going to die at birth anyway, that's one thing, because technology has brought us that far. To use it as sex selection or to use it as a form of birth control, to me, is abomination.
Well,
Because
most
we
people-
need to be
yeah.
responsible for our actions. That includes men
Right.
and women.
But most people don't support that. So let me ask you a question. We've got, the issue of abortion is now back to the states, where it always was prior to 1974. Okay, so we had a period from 1974 to 2023 when the Roe decision prevailed. Okay, but you subtract that amount of time in this country, the rest of the time, it's always been a state-regulated issue. It was not considered a federal issue, okay? So that's where it always was for a period of time. The federal overrode it, now it's back to the states. So there are some states, in most states, you can get abortions, okay? So I think there's maybe 15 or so states that have enacted very restrictive policies regarding abortion. But I am not aware, I'm not saying there isn't, I just don't know because I haven't looked at it that closely. But in those states where those rather restrictive laws prevail, are there any states that flat outright forbid abortion under any circumstances? Do you know?
No, I think they all have.
I think
most
they
of-
all have
I mean,
a-
even Florida,
Yeah.
Florida is under a certain time frame.
Right.
And then when we can do a little bit more research, maybe for next week.
Yeah, I think I'm going to look into that.
And actually do some more statistical analysis. But when they take sound bites, or they only take a piece out of context, and basically say that the candidate is saying such and such, they want it back in the states. They want the states to have more jurisdiction, or more choices, rather than have the federal government be in charge of everything.
Well, what does the 10th Amendment to the Constitution say? It says those powers that are not specifically enumerated or delegated to the federal authority are reserved to the states or the people respectively. So if it's not in the Constitution, according to the 10th Amendment to the federal Constitution, if it's not in there, the right goes, or the power goes back to the states
But
or the
where I
people,
wanted to go
okay?
with the whole issue is the following.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. See, our producer is right on top of things here.
Access to abortion,
Here we go. What does it say?
state by state.
Perfect.
In Louisiana, no. In Utah, yes, if crime is reported. Idaho, yes. Mississippi, yes, for rape if reported.
You have a lot of your southern states.
North Dakota, yes. Tennessee, you can see the no's.
Okay, so there's a bunch of, how many no's do we have here?
Now, this is baloney. I know you can get an abortion in Texas.
Yeah, no,
So that may be
This
whatever
is
this site is.
baloney.
I don't think that site is
So
accurate.
I-
Disregard these clowns.
Right, because there's things that are out there.
Are you
that-
saying there are things on the internet that aren't true?
Well, we just witnessed
I am shocked.
Where I wanted
am
to go,
shocked.
where I wanted to go with my argument here is the following.
Oh,
If I don't have safety and security, if I can't afford to buy food or drive to a clinic, it is irrelevant whether or not I have the right to have one, because I can't get there from here.
Well, good point.
So I'm looking at the safety and
Call
security
Bob, he drives an Uber, right?
at my
Not
number
anymore.
one priority in dealing with who I want to choose to be president of the United States. Because if you're not safe and secure, you can't even go to the grocery store to buy food, regardless of the price.
Well, that's the first priority of government, is security and safety.
Well, it's supposed to be, but right now it isn't.
No.
No, Evelyn, I think you're right on the money, and that's my point when I say it's all about women. If I was a person running Trump's camp, I'd say, Donald, listen, just talk about what you're going to do. drill,
Well, that's
drill,
what he's
drill. And
doing.
no, lately, in just my opinion, lately he's been going after Kamala too much, because that's all they do.
He can't help himself.
No, that's
I
Trump's
know, I know.
personality.
Trump has a very thin skin as
Yeah, he
far as
doesn't like-
being
yeah.
criticized.
And he wants to make everything so that
just
it's in
can't- he
his
can't take it.
perspective.
But you
Right.
guys know 13 days is a long time, and a lot can be said from now until the end of 13 days, just to
Well-
turn around the women vote a little bit. I think he's already done it. I
I
think
don't
he's,
think the New York Times will let us in there, but we'll give it a shot.
I
yeah.
really feel, and I'm looking at Lowell, can you imagine that? And I see signs all over
Okay.
Belvedere.
Yeah, you can't. I've had this issue too, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
But anyway, so we touched upon that, which we can touch upon in the next hour. But there was something that recently came up that a friend of mine moved, and we won't name names because we don't need to do that. And a census worker showed up at the door. And
In the new location.
in the new location. And the census, I was under the understanding that a census was like once every decade, and they were trying to figure out, who lived where and a few other things, and we all took that. And there
Well,
are
that's
no-
federal census, right.
Yes, and then we have a census that we have in Chelmsford.
Local census.
Right, that says, you're still there and what's your occupation. It's very simple. So this particular.
And do you have a dog?
Well, yeah, it's always a dog.
Just hold that thought for a second, please.
Here we go.
Google says, as of December 11, 2023, 14 states have banned abortion. Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota. I never even think about South Dakota. That state never crosses my mind.
But-
Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia.
My question, John, is banned really the correct word? Because are there, in those 14
It
states,
says which states outlawed abortion?
outlawed abortion? So that, but if that language says to, words mean things. So what that tells me is, under no circumstances can you get any kind of an abortion, even if you are raped or incest. That's what that says to me. So
Right,
my
but we're
question
gonna
is,
do a little bit more research
is
on
that
this.
actually accurate? Because you
Right.
said you said something about Texas, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what was your thought about Texas? You said,
Texas, I know you can get an abortion in Texas.
Okay, so
it
that's
says
not-
Texas,
so it's not banned in Texas. It's restricted. That's my point. They restrict it. So I think banned may
here's
not
more
be.
about Texas.
Yeah,
Abortions
okay.
are banned with certain exceptions.
No, then they're
Yeah,
not banned.
yeah.
They're not banned.
Yeah, I think
Banned
it's-
means you can't get it under any circumstances. So the correct term is they
I
are
think Glenn's
restricted.
outside.
They're restricted.
Okay, I'll go get them.
This is how the media plays games with you.
Yeah, it's-
Banned means you can't get it under any circumstances. That's not what it
That's-
is. That's my point.
Respectfully, Sam, that's your take on banned.
Now-
Well, anyway, what I wanted to do, now that he's here, but have you
Right.
ever heard, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because Sam knows like everything.
No, I don't.
Have you ever heard of the current population survey? It comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And what it does is it collects information and it asks you, do you work? How much money do you make? Among other things. And a current population survey, I never had heard of it.
Nope, I don't know. I haven't heard of it either.
And so we're going to do a little research with this because to me, it's an invasion of privacy and they do it every 2 years. Oh, we got a delay on the
Okay.
television in the
Yeah,
other room that I can hear.
Look that up. Just to follow up on the definition of the word ban, okay? It means officially or legally prohibited. Prohibited means you can't do it under any circumstances, okay? So that is not the correct word, all right?
Good morning.
I just think it's another,
Again.
it's
Hey, you
it's
kids want to hop up so Evelyn
it's
can
another
sit
way
next
the
to her
media
husband?
manipulates you through language.
Well, Glenn is here, and so we're going to put him down. But the current population survey is interesting. I never heard of it. Nobody's ever come to my house. It is optional.
What are you
It's-
talking about, Ed?
It's called the current population survey. It's part of dealing with labor, apparently.
Excuse me,
They want to know,
Sam,
they want to know, also, my mic is off. It's dead.
well, then take the one next to you.
All right,
I'll give him this one.
yeah.
Oh, no, you're gonna sit next to your wife.
I'll move.
Oh, my gosh. All right.
We're playing musical chairs here. No music.
I found a leaf on the floor. Look at this. There you go.
How lovely.
I didn't know you had trees in here.
That probably come off your foot.
There you go.
Well, okay, I'm gonna toss it in the barrel.
Just how steady my hands are.
Did you have any coffee at home?
Right here, John.
Oh,
McDonough has the best coffee, so I wait till I get here.
It is good. Hey, Bob.
It is good.
Good morning. Good morning. You bought the book too, Sam.
No, I didn't. That was here.
Yeah, he has that, but I have something else that he always likes.
Mine
Which
is
we'll
all
bring up.
marked up.
okay, thanks, bud.
So we're probably gonna go
Thank you.
vote today, I guess.
You're still live.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll keep talking. Anyway,
Better than being the other
Glenn
way.
Thoren is here as our guest. And
Good point.
have you ever heard of, it's called the CPS, and it's a survey put out by the U.S. Department of Labor.
What's CPS stand for?
It's Current Population Survey. And it provides a wealth of information on the nation's labor force, including the data on the employed, unemployed, and those not in whatever.
There is a survey the
labor
government does in order to apportion the representatives in each state. And it's interesting because all they do is count heads. They don't care whether you're a citizen or non-citizen.
Well, that's based on the federal census.
Yeah, and that survey happens, well, that's every 10 years,
Right.
but there's another survey that they do, I think, that's just checking on that between censuses.
Okay.
So I don't know what the CPS is.
Maybe that's what that is.
Yep. Yeah.
So on this, it's interesting.
There's a lot of government employees that have to be working, you know.
Of course.
So according to September 2024, and this is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. I did
Oh,
send.
it's a different bureau, yeah.
I did send John a picture of what we got. We're doing town meeting in Chelmsford.
Why are we talking about this?
There was an individual that had never heard of this, that let me
Oh.
know about it, sent me the link, and I'd never heard about it either. And
So if somebody wants you to do their research for them, that's okay.
no, that person's doing the research, but it's something different that I had never heard of. So, I mean, I have conversations with other people about a lot of different things.
Is this the thing you're talking about?
No, no, it
Never
goes
mind.
back to two different things. It has to do with the rate of inflation. But it says
don't get me
here on
started.
this site, this is the US site, that the unemployment rate is 4.1%.
Okay, sounds about right.
Is
The
that, that's a
civilian-
national
What's the date?
statistic, federal statistic? Okay.
The civilian labor force participation rate was 62.7%.
That's the important part.
Right.
And the employment population ratio was 60%. There's some other things here. So, and then they talk about employment and unemployment and all the other stuff. And they just want to know, what people are doing. But I thought that was kind of interesting because that's something that was new to me.
Well, there's a lot of things you hear about that you say, well, I didn't know that. When the job rate goes up, when a lot more people are employed, people go, oh, that's great, and stuff, but they don't realize that a large, and I mean large percentage of those are government jobs. So the government's taking your tax dollars, hiring more people, and saying, well, look, the employment rate is up, there's more people employed, but they're government people. So it's
And
just.
they're not producing anything.
That's-
Well, it's not
That's
in
the problem.
manufacturing.
They're not
Yeah.
producing.
And they don't tell you that either.
No, because.
So-
no,
So if we're watching the time,
Yeah.
we only have like, say, a minute, and then we've got to break at the 7 o'clock time
Right.
frame. And I wanted to let John know that I brought with me to leave for his perusal at his leisure, the Town of Chelmsford Annual Town Report. And in this report, I don't know if Lowell has one of these, or if other communities do, please let us know if anybody's listening. It has the salaries of every employee in the town listed.
If you want to see a good town report,
Okay, so
get Chelmsford.
let me follow up on that. Thank you very much.
The time, we got a break.
Okay, because
So
I
we're-
want to talk about that in the next hour. Sure.
Right, well, we have a bunch of different things.
All
I
right.
hope that you'll stay with us.
Yep.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to City Life. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I am your host for the next almost whole hour. And we have my two co-hosts. We have Bob Hoey and we have Sam Chase. Thanks, guys, for getting up extra special early. We've already been here an hour talking about a wide range of topics. John McDonough is behind the camera. I have asked him if he wants to say something beyond the camera. That would be nice. And we have our guest, Glenn Thoren. And Sam likes to emphasize.
Dr. Glenn Thoren.
Well, every week, same thing.
I'm sorry, I respect that. So you're going to have to endure it as long as
So
I
tell
live.
us,
Don't ask me for a prescription, though.
No.
That's not happening.
He's not a pill-giving doctor.
No, not one of those guys.
although he could give you a pill if he needed to.
I'm sure.
So, in case somebody doesn't know, what is your PhD in, Glenn?
Applied engineering physics,
From?
Cornell.
Yeah, and Cornell has become a lot more woke than when you were out there and we lived out there when you got your PhD. Actually, we got your PhD.
Yeah,
We all worked
exactly.
together.
We all
Yeah.
work together, yeah.
I didn't do any of the coursework, but he did help.
You did a lot of the typing, though, right?
Yeah, I did,
Yeah.
initially. Yeah,
I
initially.
would have faded away without food if she wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have undergraduate experiences with regard to lack of food. So we were talking about a variety of things. I did bring up that I brought the Town of Chelmsford town report, the annual town report. One of these-
Fiscal 2024.
Right.
Right.
Every year, one of these is produced. In it, we have reports from all of the committees in town. You know who's on the committee, if there's anything special going on, the script is, I wrote the one for the Arts and Technology Education Fund, Sam wrote the one for the Assessor's Office. So there's a lot of information. But the reason that I like to bring it is because John likes to know what everybody makes. And in here, very transparent, is the list of all the municipal employees and what their salaries are.
And school department.
Yes, well, that's part of the
They break it down to
municipality.
base time and overtime, too.
Yep.
So there's a lot of information in this book. There's other documents that are on the website
Does
in
the police
Chelmsford.
chief get overtime?
If he works it,
The chief, yeah. I assume so.
they don't.
Amazing,
But
amazing.
if you
Does
look
the
in
fire
this,
chief get overtime?
if you look in this book, you'll see that neither the
You need to look
police,
at the mic.
neither the police nor the fire chief have been paid overtime. So that tells me they were not paid overtime.
Oh, yeah.
See, management does not get overtime, in my book.
Well,
If you're a supervisor, I'm the boss, then you don't get overtime.
okay, but if you are if you
It's all
are
contractually.
if you are okay, let me ask you this though. If you're a police lieutenant, by definition, you're management, okay, because you manage other police officers under you. If you're a police lieutenant, you are a manager, okay? The police lieutenants are allowed to work details and paid details, and so they get paid
I
details.
resent, when I see a
And
gold
and they
badge,
get overtime pay as well, okay?
when I see a gold badge guarding a Verizon crew, that gets me angry.
Well, okay, but-
It should be the younger generation gets that overtime.
And that's fine, John. That's fine. I agree with you, but
This is
I'm just
funny.
telling you that's the way it is. I
Okay,
mean,
I got-
they do get paid overtime. So can I see that book for a minute? Because I want to point
Okay,
out
I'm
a
going
couple
to read
things.
these texts while
Yeah,
Sam's
go
looking
ahead.
at the book.
Go ahead.
It seems more Republicans are doing early voting more than ever before. Interesting. The government produces bulk fertilizer by the ton. It spews out of their mouths at every level, local, state, and federal. Thank you for your comments.
Well, we know and with regard to the
This is
last,
in the last hour, and it says, woman's ability to exercise her health, this is from a male, her health care choices shouldn't be dictated by her geographic location. Should we return the issue of slavery back to the states? I understand what you're saying. I think, my only problem with abortion is
It's
they
not a
don't
valid
counsel
comparison.
these young women. They don't counsel women about the repercussions. A lot of my friends live to this day that they had an abortion and they feel terrible about it.
Well, it's
And I
like,
just don't, and
yeah.
everybody that I talk to about it that's in the mood to talk about it, they were not counseled about it. It was like, ka-ching, more money for the hospital.
well,
one of the
it's like capital punishment. You don't get a second chance if you make a mistake, right?
right.
So,
But when, now I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay.
I need
back to
protein
Sam
in
and
the
the
morning.
book.
Sam's got the
Let me
book.
just talk about this for a minute, and then you can think about it. Okay, so the reason, I'm glad Evelyn brought this up, and this is the Chelmsford Hour, so hopefully Chelmsford
You
people
can
are
leave that
watching.
for John, too.
I'm leaving it.
What you hear from the public a lot, the allegation is that government is not transparent, there's no place we can go to get the information, and they're pulling the wool over our eyes.
How many
and blah,
pages
blah,
are in
blah,
the
blah,
book?
blah. Okay, oh my God. it's
A lot.
So
Okay,
that's what they do with city council agendas. They give you
No,
a,
but you ought to read this.
John, this is very
Readable.
simple, and it's readable, okay?
Even you can
You
do
know,
it, John.
If you change the name of the characters, you could make a novel out of
My
this.
this is
point-
a
my
good
point
book
is-
from my friend Cliff Krieger.
Yeah, it took me about an hour and a half to read through this the other night, okay? So in the town report, starting on page 36 through page
This is
73.
the town of Chelmsford.
Town of Chelmsford, page 36 through 73. It's a lot of pages. That is the listing of every single town and school employee and their salary, their base salary, and any overtime that they may work or anything like that. It's all in here. So I hope I don't hear from people in Chelmsford that there's no place they can go to get this information. Here it is, all out in the open, transparent. To Evelyn's point about the reports, every working department makes a report, every board, major board and committee makes a report as far as their activities. I'm going to pick on my report because this is something, again, that people question. So I'm chairman of the Board of Assessors in town, and I wrote the report for this year's annual report. And I decided that one thing I was going to do was I was going to explain how we value properties, because this is an issue for a lot of people, okay? They don't think it's done right or whatever. So I wrote a report in very simple language. If you have a 6th or a 7th grade education, you can read this and understand it, and it tells you exactly how the assessors value properties, okay? So that's just an example of what you're going to find in this book, okay? It's very, very transparent. It tells you exactly what's going on in the town. It gives you all these, like I said, the salaries of everybody. You have the budget schedules in here. You have town meeting votes. So nobody in town should feel that they can't get information on how their town government operates. Okay, I will get off my soapbox, and I will give you back your
No,
report.
but
I think
if anybody from any town, including Lowell,
Yep.
which is a city, I guess, wants to see what a well-written document looks like, that's it. And that's taken years to perfect.
Yes.
But now they got it.
Yeah,
So
very well done.
The thing that I wanted to say to hopefully finishes the conversation today about the health issue. You had somebody make a comment about the health issue, but you do have people, if it is a health issue, if an abortion is considered health, okay, broad term, they can go to another state. We have people that come to Massachusetts from all over the world for health because of the hospitals that we have. If they can travel, someone else could travel to New York, they could travel to whatever state allows whatever that procedure is. So if we want to term it as any normal, we'll put that in big quotes, health procedure, medical procedure, they can go where they can get one. If you want, certain transplants, you might go to the Mayo Clinic. That may be in Florida. It may be someplace else, another state that you go to. If you have issues with cancer, you may be going, Dana-Farber, but you may be from Canada. You may be from South Africa. It's any number of things, and there's a lot of places within this country that people will travel to for health purposes. So this, to me, isn't any different than to do that. They've made it political. So that being stated, since
Excuse me.
we don't need to necessarily, go through all of the questions locally.
Well, we had a good rehearsal the other night, though.
Read this one, Al, and then Bobby will respond how they go off track.
Yeah,
If
it's not
government
good.
is so transparent, why do they have executive sessions?
You want me to answer that?
Oh, Bobby, speak to
No,
some of
I
the
can't.
executive sessions.
Yeah, no,
generically.
it's just, to me, they need to record them somehow, either on tape or audio, one or the other, because people will come in the next day or 2 days later and take out things that they said at the meeting.
That's right.
I heard you say it.
Yep.
And then they'll come in and try to redact it, I believe is the word. And
I
it
think
just
we, I
needs-
think we all agree with that. that
Secret
the- yeah,
squirrel meetings,
the-
I called it, that's all.
There are
That's all.
legitimate
Right.
reasons for executive sessions, but what the law says is that minutes have to be taken, and at some point, those minutes have to be released under law, and it's a certain time frame. However, to Bob's point, okay, it all depends on who's taking the notes, right?
Right.
So I agree that executive sessions should be recorded. There's no reason, and you just don't release that to the public until it's time to release it, okay? That's all.
Yeah, one of the problems I have with what you just said, Sam, is that sometimes you get into personnel issues, and some people that may be in the executive session have some harsh and perhaps even inappropriate things to say about a person.
That's covered by law, so those items would not be available to the public.
Those can be redacted.
Those can be redacted.
So it's recorded and transcribed, you have the right to
Correct.
redact
No,
stuff.
no, I
that-
don't want it transcribed. You can just blurb it out. It's real easy to delete audio.
Yeah, no, that's okay, but
Yeah.
there are... Yeah.
I didn't write, I forgot that sentence. No.
Well, it depends on who you
Play the
have
recording.
recording it.
Minutes, this always bothered me, even with regular meetings that are not executive, and it used to just blow my mind. You'd have a meeting, the minutes would be written, and the minutes were accurate, okay? And then the following meeting, you would go to approve the minutes, and somebody on the board would say, well, I want that changed because, that's... No, you don't understand. Minutes are a record of what
happened,
was
right.
said, not what you wish was said,
Yeah.
okay? And a lot of times, people try...
Glad you're around, Sam.
Well,
Clear that up.
and I've chaired many committees in Chelmsford, and every time, I would get that, and I'd say, sorry, we're not changing it. You said that. It's a record of what you said. Now, if you want to explain that in this meeting, and you want to revisit it and say, gee, I think differently
No, what
now.
I meant to say was,
Then we'll record it in these minutes. I said, that's the way you correct it, but you don't go back and alter the record of what was actually said. And a lot of people try to do that, as you well know, right?
Yeah.
And if it was recorded, you couldn't do that.
Exactly.
So,
Evelyn, I just
Sam,
said,
you want to read this one?
Okay, this is the person who's sending the...
Yes.
Okay, Nancy Weems Humphrey has sent, even though they offer the medical procedure in Massachusetts, ? You can go anywhere else in the U.S. for a medical procedure offered in Mass.
I think she meant, can you go?
Yeah, I think so.
is we have the freedom to go anywhere
Right.
for health. It's a question of what your health insurance requires. If you want to cover it
Right.
all on your own, you can go anywhere for any particular medical procedure, even if it's covered in Massachusetts.
But that's-
Even within my
That's-
network,
I don't think that's the point she was trying to make.
even within my network in Massachusetts, if I don't like what's in my network, I can go out of network. I can go somewhere else. I'm not limited by and restricted, at least I'm not limited or restricted by where I can go. You were going to say something?
I was.
Well, can you say it now?
Okay. So what the point I think she was trying to make was, if you have a procedure in Massachusetts, can you go anywhere in the country and get that same procedure? And the answer is
No.
maybe.
No.
But, well, it's not necessarily no, but
People in Massachusetts is 65.
it's maybe. Because other states offer similar procedures, but some may not. It's,
Right.
if a state doesn't have the appropriate hospital facilities, medical facilities, they can't offer a procedure that may be available at Dana-Farber or, Brigham and Women's or Mass General. So every state supports their, hospitals and medical care differently. So some states you'd go to for certain care and other states you wouldn't. That's just the way it is.
So I guess the point that I would make on the comment is that if Massachusetts did not allow abortions, but New Hampshire does, Vermont does, Connecticut does, Rhode Island does, and New York does, border states, you can go there for that procedure because it's not offered in Massachusetts.
So Nancy, from her side, she says, yes, it is. That is the point that she is stating.
Who is stating?
Evelyn,
Nancy.
I guess. Oh,
Oh, well, anyway, we can have more information with regard to what goes on in all the other states, because I believe in having exceptions.
See, I don't think that if, we'll pick on Oklahoma, because they have a lovely song. And let's say, for instance, let's say hypothetically that it is a fact you can't get an abortion in Oklahoma. I don't think somebody from Massachusetts can be down in Oklahoma and get an abortion.
why would they do that?
I think that's what Nancy's,
No, I think
you're right. I
that's a
think
correct
that-
statement.
Yeah, I think that's what she was.
I don't think,
Yeah, I think
if
that's what
it's
she was
not legal
getting
in this state,
Right. Yeah.
sorry, I know your health card says they'll pay for it, but
Go to Illinois.
we can't do that.
Go to New York.
Go back to Massachusetts.
Well,
That's my
California.
take.
It isn't that
Go
if
to
the
Massachusetts.
state bans it, you can't go anywhere to have it. I mean, that's my point. They're supposed to be able, if you're a resident of Texas and they ban it, you can go to Massachusetts if you really want to. And you have people that are doing that they're going to other states. And then there's issues when they come back and they have
Well,
complications. But what I would like to do is to move on to another
ahead.
topic.
Yes.
What I would like to do is, I would like these young women, old women, or whoever they might be, to get proper counseling before any procedures are.
Of course.
yes,
And
good.
Nancy concludes with this, okay, it depends on insurance. Read the rest, please, about insurance. So, it deserves more study. Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Yep, and so what we'll do
So what
is
are we
we'll do
moving
a-
on to now?
Politics, obviously.
Politics.
Yes, so
Don't know anything
we
about it.
have people out there that basically state that Trump has no policies and no plans. You have the Democrats accusing him of that. And then you we're watching, I'm just setting the stage here because this will be a lot of conversation, I hope. But we're also watching NBC, ABC, some people on CNN, and others that are doing interviews of the Democratic candidate that are basically saying, but you're not answering my question. And can you clarify that? And then they go off and that. So it's kind of interesting when people are making those accusations. So maybe, Glenn, in terms of policy or plans, you could draw a comparison between the two candidates.
Just backing the bus up a little bit, Ev. Nancy Weems Humphrey concludes, please don't assume what I am saying. I said medical procedure, not abortion.
And we talked about, who's able to do cancer, remediation and things like that, and every state's equipped differently. But back to the politics part, I posted just a brief comment this morning because we're, 12 days out? to about 12 days out from the election, we have now entered the dirty trick zone.
Yes.
You know, and
Politics.
Dirty trick
zone. So be prepared for, let your imagination run. Well, what is the worst crap that you think someone could bring out and toss at another candidate at all levels, presidential level, Senate level, stuff like that. So it's coming. If it hasn't hit the street already, it might be in the newspaper this evening. When people are desperate, and they will pull any kind of dirty trick out of the back
They
pocket.
won't Stormy off the lounge chair? Is Stormy coming off the lounge chair, you think?
Say it again?
You think Stormy's coming into the picture?
Stormy Daniels.
Oh, no. That's,
I think that's
you
a
know,
dead issue.
you get Romney's dog in the cage on the roof of the car, you get stuff like that. But with Trump, it's the amount of
Hatred.
the depth they'll go to is unlimited. So, I don't know what they're going to come at him with now, but they're going to say, well, Trump is this, Trump is that. They've been doing a pretty good job trying to make something stick, and nothing sticks, because, you can refute it. And last night there was an interview between Anderson Cooper and Kamala Harris. It was painful, extraordinarily painful to watch. It was a town hall, and people were asking questions. She wouldn't answer them. She gets into, she didn't get into, I was born in a middle-class family, sort of thing. I grew up in a
Thank
middle-class
God.
family.
I've heard that story.
But she, and people now notice. So when they interview potential voters about, what do you like about this candidate or that candidate, they always point out she doesn't answer the questions. She goes on to something else, so she makes it about Trump. That's not an answer. That's not somebody who's going to be able to go up
It's a strategy.
toe-to-toe. It's a strategy, but people then take the second thought is, how is this person going to be able to deal with Prime Minister Xi or Putin or anybody else that's alpha male, I'll call it, in the world? How are they going to be able to negotiate with a person like that when they can't answer the simple question about, why are you different from Joe Biden? Why did you flip-flop on all your positions?
Can I just interject one
Please.
thing? It's not that she can't answer the question. It's that she won't
Well,
answer the question
correct, that
because
is
she
correct,
knows
Steve.
the correct answer would be largely unacceptable
Would
to
be
most
even worse
people.
than not answering.
Exactly.
Right, and so my point is still the same.
Yes.
If she went up against a world leader who was competent and strong, she didn't get a chance.
And I believe when they do, these polls, I've never been questioned. At my house, no one's ever called me and say, who are you voting for? It's never happened.
Careful what you wish
Well, I know this is an opinion show, and what I want to see, and I think it's possible, is that he even wins the popular vote. How's that? I'll go to that extreme right now, because they don't know how the unenrolled are going to vote. And I
Hey, it's
can't.
time for Evelyn's favorite
Yeah,
part of the show.
yeah, well, that's okay. I just feel like he might win the popular vote. He might.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
For after
so
announcement.
Evelyn's favorite part of the show. Your mic just shut off, so you can chitter chatter over there. If you want an announcement of the show, just send me a text, email, and we can make that happen. Today is October 24th. So that means if you are over 60 years old, you're welcome to go over to Lowell Senior Center today. Son of a gun. I gotta press some more buttons here, sorry. Okay, so if you want to, thank you. So today we have barbecue chicken breast sandwich and soup. $2. If you don't have the $2, we'll give it to you for free. Get over there at 10:30, get a ticket, and go into the great room, sit down. The feed bag comes out around 11, and you're walking out of there 11:30 if you want to be. So it's 7 days a week. They have lunch at the Lowell Senior Center, and one of the few senior centers I know of that has lunch 7 days a week. We talked about this earlier today, but this is a really cool thing. The LASA, Love All, Serve All, is having a free health clinic this Saturday. So whatever's ailing you, I got to shrink this down so it fits on the screen. Wrong button. Okay, so free medical clinic this Saturday from 8:30 a.m. You can walk in at any time, 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. walk in, and you can have internal medicine. There are doctors there that are there giving their services free for the day. So God bless this organization. Good idea doing this, and There's more information on the bottom here. I'll slide it up a little bit with the phone number, but if you call them up and tell them you're going, all the better. You don't have to. You can just scoot over there, and it's at the old Lowell Elks Lodge. To give you an idea where that is, it's the Low Lawrence Boulevard. There's a new market basket by the Rourke Bridge, and behind the market basket, the next lot over is the LASA, and that's where they're going to be. And that's the Saya Unity Center, 40 Old Ferry Road, if you want to put that in your car, 40 Old Ferry Road, Lowell, Massachusetts. Free health clinic, they have a dentist there. You can get your eyes looked at. It's all free this Saturday. The LRTA is collecting food. They're going to collect food next Wednesday, October 30th. They're going to bring whatever food you have. And there's a whole list of things right here that they want to really see. And be it gluten-free, healthy snack items, coffee, tea, all kinds of good stuff. So when you go to the food store, get an extra thing and bring it over to the Gallagher Terminal, 115 Thorndike Street in lovely Lowell, Massachusetts. They want to fill the bus up with some food for those in need. And Evelyn sent me a message, but it doesn't have dates on it, so I'll talk to her about that later. Back to you guys. Ev, back to you.
Okay, welcome back to City Life. We were talking about the election and with policies and plans of each of the candidates, but one of the topics that is always of interest to most of the pundits that's out there is, what do the polls state? I personally believe that there's a lot of people not answering the polls because they do not want to be labeled and they don't want to be confronted. But
Do you think people actually lie when they're asked those questions?
I think they
Some
hang
do.
up. I
Okay.
think they hang up. I don't
Most
answer
people
any of
don't
them.
answer.
I don't answer any of them. And I'm getting quite a number of phone calls. I know that Glenn gets them too. But we were talking about that, and Bob, you had something when we were talking about polls and things that you just can see locally that's around. We talked about it in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, like I live in District 3, which is Belvedere, the swamp, the old swamp. They lost their power when they did redistricting in Lowell. In Lowell, we have a lot of the DEI stuff going on. Lowell's just a liberal town. And I go and see the signs up in Belvedere, and I see a lot of them. Woman for Trump.
In Belvedere?
Yeah, I've seen my share of signs in
Wow.
Belvedere. And Ed Kennedy is some people call him a progressive Democrat. I just know he's important for Lowell right now. I mean, he can get along with Ed Markey. That's what Massachusetts does. But I feel the first time in my lifetime, and I'll be 70 there, Glenn, in 4 days, that finally people are waking up. I have a lot of friends my age that don't even vote. I mean, that drives me insane. It really does. I say, don't complain then. Don't come to me with your problems. You don't even vote. They don't even register to vote. But I've seen an increase in Lowell, and this is Massachusetts, for women. Women for Trump. I think if Trump could just, for the next 12 days, not talk so much about Kamala and talk more about drill baby drill and stuff like that, he'll be better off.
I've been watching what they put on
go ahead.
television for the rallies and stuff, and he's doing that. It's unfortunate that, as Sam said earlier, that Kamala is choosing not to answer questions because the answer might be more impactful than her not answering. But, one of the things that you'll see in the polls is there's a poll, I was always curious about, which pollsters are good and which are not so good. And there's actually a study that was done on that.
Oh, good.
And I pulled out that study, and they said, the most accurate poll was Atlas Intel. Well, who the heck ever heard of an Atlas Intel poll?
Never heard of it.
Emerson College, Suffolk College, ABC, NBC, all Atlas Intel. But they do polling worldwide. They do it for other nations, France, Spain, and so forth. So I said, and they don't do it often. They're not like an every week poll. They came out with one a few days ago that showed Trump was in the lead by 3 nationally.
Really?
Trump was in the lead in the battleground states. Atlas Intel, when they did this completely different thing, surveyed who were the most accurate pollsters, they were the ones, and I said, I never heard of these guys.
Now, did they give you the basis of their poll? What was their sampling? Who did they talk to?
You can go to Atlas Intel, and you
Okay.
can get every cross-reference
Well, I'm going to look
you
that up.
ever wanted to till your brain explodes. But anyway, I thought that was interesting because I was waiting for them to come out with a poll close to the Atlas, like Atlas, Intel, INTEL, a poll that was near to the election. And right now, on our usual national poll roll-up surveys on Real Clear Politics, President Trump is leading in every battleground state, some not by much, but the factor that I take into consideration is in 2016 and 2020, whatever the poll said about Trump, he was doing better by between 2 and 5 percentage points.
Also in 2016, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, Hillary had a substantial lead going into the election and lost. And Biden had an even larger lead, in like 9 points or something, and barely won. So the new polls that we're looking at right now are, which I don't remember looking at all in previous election, are the betting polls. Because there's a worldwide network of betting organizations that take real money. Approaching $2 billion have been bet on this presidential election. So when people put down large sums of money, I feel fairly certain that they've looked into it carefully. If you're going to put down, $1 million on a bet, you'd probably take a good hard look at what the information is in front of you before you bet on somebody. So if John has access to a computer, and can look up real clear presidential betting. You're going to eat?
Well, we've got a half an hour. Okay. Real
I'm
clear.
not pressing you here. I'm just saying.
What do you want me to put up?
So I look under presidential betting poll, POLL, and you'll find one of the subcategories under presidential betting poll is real clear. I think it's Real Clear Betting or something like that. And it's a very short page. It has a list of all the polling groups in the world that are taking bets. You can't bet in the United States. You can't bet. You can go into Canada.
Politics, yeah.
You can go into Canada and bet, but a U.S. citizen can't bet on the election. But Real Clear Politics has this Real Clear Betting poll list.
What do you want here?
Can
gotta
you
put it up.
show that? It's got two parts to it. One is a list of all the polls and the ratios. Yeah, scroll down. Scrolling, keep going. Real Clear Polling, that's it.
Betting odds.
Is that for this election or last election?
2024.
That's it. So if you look at that list, there you can see what the world polls are currently handling as the odds between them. And it's right now it's 60-40, but the thing that I love graphs, and I'm not going to get into Venn diagrams, but if you look at the graph on the bottom, and just expand, if you can, John, the right-hand side, it shows the divergence of the
What do you mean expand? You got the whole thing.
oh, yeah, on my computer I can make it bigger, but leave it like, that's
Okay,
fine.
that's fine, that's fine.
But you can see the red is Donald Trump and the blue is Harris. It used to be Biden. And you can see how the polls there, interestingly enough, began to diverge after the second Butler, Pennsylvania rally.
All right, so the big dip was the debate, right? Is that correct?
I'm not sure what the dip was.
It says July.
That would have been Biden.
Yeah, so that's, so
Well,
that was Biden.
that's while
Okay.
Biden was still in,
Right, but then they had the debate and the.
Right, because see,
and
as
the-
he pulls the cursor over, you can see who it is.
Okay, so Biden, I'm going to say the debate was in July, I believe. So the blue line is Biden
Yep.
to, they had the debate and then the thing
And then
crashed.
they installed Kamala.
Okay, and then from that point, it was Harris, and she went up.
Yeah, Joy
Okay, I
Joy
got it.
prevailed until they started asking
I got it.
questions.
All right.
And then where the red begins to go up and the other one tends to go down,
This is July 16th, I'm looking at right here.
Right, that's when,
Slide over to today.
Today, okay, or October 20th. Close.
so
enough.
the general trend of those seems to be the general trend of the voting population. Now, this isn't a poll of an individual state or anything. This is where people are putting their money, and it's gone down just a little bit over the past day, but it was generally, something like 60-40 up to today. It's refreshed several times a day. And occasionally people, are changing their bets. You see a lot of jaggedness in the lines, but the lines give you the overall impression of where the election is headed. And so if Trump is up by, let's say,
Went to 59%.
yeah, he was up at over 60. If you look at
Today's results.
you look at the lists on the just above that, he was over 60 in all the betting markets yesterday, late yesterday, and now it's come down a little bit. Who knows why?
Politics, you only have to be popular one day.
That's true.
Right.
So do you think the Harris campaign is following polls like this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
If they're
All right.
smart, they're following all of it. And that's why they're getting sort of desperate. But there's been criticisms about how the operation, the management of her campaign. I don't necessarily want to get involved with that, but I want to talk about, the policies of each of the candidates, what they're proposing to do. When we listen to, or was listening to the liberal media, and if you listen to Harris, he has no plan.
So if I can take a shot at summarizing,
Hold on.
what do you got?
So, Ed, what do we got today?
Cheese Danish, lemon cheese Danish.
Thank you.
Oh, that looks good on camera.
Before you start, Glenn, let me just make one comment, and then I'll shut up, because we are talking now about policies of the candidates, which I think is the question, really. So my theory is this, and I've made no secret about it, I don't like either of the candidates, okay? I don't. So the way I look at this election is, never mind the two people at the top of the ticket, okay? Look and focus at what they will do, and in Trump's case, you have a record of 4 years you can look at, okay? Focus on the policies. Focus on what they think this country is supposed to be and where they're going to take it, policy-wise. Forget the personalities and focus on the policies. Okay, I've had my say, so go ahead.
So I'm going to revise my comments based on what you just said, because, you've got a very, very unusual circumstance where you've got a previous administration that was in place for 4 years, got hammered with a pandemic, but they were in place for 4 years. And then you've got a change administration who's been in place for the last 3.5 plus years. So you can look at the two administrations and say, okay, what did they do and how am I doing? Because when people go to the polls, most of them, I think the vast majority, vote on how am I doing? And so the contrast is very stark. What I was going to summarize the two policies, the way I look at them, you can certainly argue against this point, but from Kamala Harris's point of view, her policy tends to summarize as, I'm going to take government money, I'm going to spend it on all the things that I think are important. Forgiving student loans, supporting the conversion to electric vehicles, and supporting other nations as appropriate, like Ukraine and Israel and stuff. So it's taking the government wealth and putting it into the priorities.
Which is your wealth. There is no
It's
government money.
It's
There
our
is
money.
no government money.
But she's going to run out of it. So there's only one way to deal with that. She's going to, raise taxes, which she said she would do on the millionaires and billionaires. But, you've seen the studies. If you took almost all the wealth of all the billionaires, it's still not enough money.
According to the Internal Revenue Service, the top 1% of the wealthy in this country pay 42% of all the income taxes.
Right.
The top 1% pay 42%, and 50% of Americans pay no income tax.
Right.
So the next time you hear a politician tell you, okay, that people at the top are not paying their fair share, that's a statistic right from the IRS. That's not a political statistic. It is a statistic from a federal agency, okay? So those are the numbers, folks.
And if you look at the negative consequences on the average American of unbridled inflation, is that we're all paying, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars more per year for energy and housing and, gasoline and goods, because goods have to be transported, and that takes gasoline and diesel fuel. All those higher costs are being pushed down on the middle-class citizens because of the policies that led to the inflation in the country. So that is like a tax on the average population. So summarize, just make it simple. Summarizing the way I look at their policy is Kamala Harris wants more of your money to spend on more of her priorities and go from there. More government hiring and so forth.
You want me to read this?
Yes.
Okay. Sean Spicer on Megyn Kelly's podcast yesterday claims the Republicans are up 12,000 votes in Nevada in early voting. Okay, so I have a question, and this isn't rhetorical. I really don't know the answer. Okay, I don't know the answer. Well, maybe somebody here knows the answer. So it's early voting. How do they know the results?
So some
of early
states,
voting?
not all states, will tell you which party vote they received.
But they don't know the actual.
They don't know who they voted for.
Okay, but, okay, so it's a party.
So it said
Okay.
Republicans.
Right.
You can make an assumption,
Okay.
but it might not be 100% accurate.
Yeah, 40% of those Republicans might have voted for Harris. You don't
Now,
know.
on the other hand, President Trump's policies differ because what he wants to do is release the enthusiasm, the creativity of the American population by lowering taxes on businesses so they'll bring their business back into the United States. Kamala Harris wants to go in the opposite direction to get more money from businesses so she can spend it on her priorities. But President Trump said if you're a business that builds your goods in the United States, then you will have he's going to try to get a 15% capital gains tax as opposed to jacking it up to 30% that Kamala Harris wants to do. So it is putting more of the outcome of the activities in the country in the hands of businesses and the population. No tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security,
Or
no
tips.
tax on tips. So the message is pretty clear. You get to keep your own money if you want to go and earn it. And if people want to work more, which is great for the economy, then they have no tax on overtime, and people, Trump is thinking, and people have said, well, if I knew that was the case, my overtime is worth more. I can do more overtime. And that makes us a more productive nation.
Keep your tips, no tax on tips.
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime.
Well-
And John, pay attention, no tax on Social Security.
There you go. Now, the counter-argument to that, and I'm not saying I agree with the counter-argument, but I'll just put it out there, okay? The counter-argument to what Glenn just said is, well, if we lower all these taxes, then we're going to get a decrease in revenue. Now, that theory has been absolutely disproven many times.
Many
and
times.
And I will take people back to the, as John would like to say, the last
The
century.
Wayback Machine.
Yeah. I will take you back to the Kennedy administration. So when President Kennedy came into office, the marginal income tax rate.
60 years ago.
1960.
60 years ago.
Yeah, but the economics have not changed, okay, the way it works. When Kennedy came into office in 1960, the marginal tax rate for high earners was 90%. Okay? So if you were above a certain income level, earning your income, the federal government presumed to take 90%
Yeah,
of
you're
your
working
money
for the
away from
government.
you. So you're working for the government. Okay, so Kennedy, a Democrat,
But no dope.
came in and said, hey, what about if we lower those marginal income tax rates? We'll take it from 90% down to 50%, and let's see what happens.
Right.
Do you know what happened? The federal government actually got more tax dollars, because when they lowered the taxes on those on those rich people, the rich people stopped sheltering their income, and they said, you know what, we won't do that. It's just easier to pay the tax on a lower tax rate, and they actually got more money.
And they use
Okay.
the more money for growth.
Correct. So, and that's probably the
Okay, I
best.
want to ask you wizards a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Out there in the media is 40% of the cash that's out there today was printed within the last 4 years.
Yeah, inflation. That's what inflation
It was not taxed, didn't come out of your pocket, the government just printed it.
Yeah, that's inflation.
How much longer do you think the government can do this?
They can't.
They're going to continue.
Well, then, at the end of the day, John, your dollar is going to be worth
Sam,
nothing.
Right.
In
Nothing.
in much of my lifetime, the government takes all the tax money and they print another 100%.
Yes, you're
And they've
right.
been doing it for my
So,
whole
so,
life.
do you buy a car in the 19s? I bet you bought a car in the 1970s sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
Who didn't? Yeah.
Yeah, it was $3,000 and some odd dollars, I'm sure. It's in that range.
You could get a brand spanking new Mustang for $1,500.
In 1974, I bought a brand spanking new Mustang
Whatever,
for
it's cheap.
$3,200.
3,200. Okay.
Whatever.
He bought one.
Yeah, I bought one. So, but now that same car, relatively speaking, is $3,500.
Maybe it was a Pinto.
$35,000.
Maybe it was a Pinto.
Yeah, probably.
Chevy Impala in 1975.
So
I bought
a
new
dollar,
one, 3,500.
a dollar in 1967 would buy in 1967 what $11 buys today.
Yeah.
Okay?
10 to 1.
So people,
1967, not too bad, Sam.
yeah. So,
10 to 1.
So it's actually 11 to 1, okay, from 67. So, and that's the problem. And John is absolutely correct. He just defined what inflation is. It's the government printing money and pumping it into the economy without a corresponding increase of the goods and services that money can buy. That's inflationary, and what that does is it lowers the purchasing power of your dollar, okay? And governments like to pursue an inflationary policy because inflationary policies benefit the debtor class.
Right.
Because you now can pay your debts off in cheaper dollars.
Cheaper dollars,
So
right.
who is the largest debtor in the whole world?
I don't know. Who is
The
that?
United States government.
Oh,
So doesn't it make sense that the government would pursue an inflationary policy because the government benefits from it?
So here's a crack in the wall, Sam.
Yes.
There's this guy who's really clever, in technologies and stuff named Elon Musk.
Yes.
And if you look at how he runs his companies like Tesla and SpaceX, they accomplish breathtaking technical goals. I don't know whether you saw them grab that 250-ton, 20-story high booster engine out of the air.
It's amazing.
It's just, so the rumor is, and I don't know whether this is true, that some time ago he was thinking about trying to do that because those are too big to have landing gear on them, like the other boosters that he has. It's just too big. And people saying, this is impossible. You cannot grab something that large and prevent it from hitting the ground. And Musk's response was, okay, let's do it. So he built that whole system.
Evelyn, you want to read this one?
Leaving out income tax, how much does the government take in with all the other fees and taxes they charge us with?
I'd say take that to all levels.
Okay, I can't give you a number, but what I can tell you, the statistic I do know is that the federal income tax accounts for about 40% of all government revenues.
What I'd like to,
Okay.
the comment I'd like to bring out there is, this comment brings to my mind, taxation without representation. That's what invented the United States of America. England taxed us on tea, we got ticked off,
We threw it in the water.
and that started it. So all the illegal aliens who are here, who buy gasoline, they buy anything, they're paying taxes. So
Yes, they are.
remember taxation without representation when you say they can't vote.
I don't want to change the subject too much, but I like to do polling of my own. My wife allows me to go out and just ride my her electric bike around, and I try to find senior citizens, people that are older than me. The majority I talk to, and this is just local, and I think
That's going to get harder, Bob.
I think all politics are local anyways, I really do, but they're worried more about the direction this country's going, meaning is it becoming a third world country? Some people already believe we are getting very close to that. And safety, police safety. They don't feel safe. Even just walking the streets.
So are these
a lot of
folks
them. So I
Trump
think,
supporters?
well, I always feel this about them, yes. The majority was.
Okay.
They're not going to go with what's been going on in the past 3 or 4 years. They're not happy.
Well,
And they're scared.
I don't know if it wasn't CBS. I think it was either NBC or ABC that they've played on some of the other networks, Glenn. We watched the reporter ask a question, and the answers that were given, it was like a group. there were women there. I don't know if it was all women. And some of,
MSNBC did a group of black women
right.
women, okay.
And I don't think that they intended for the
in
results.
Philadelphia.
For the results to turn out the way it was. But these women were not happy with Harris, black women.
Why?
Because, I'll let Glenn answer that because.
I was sat there with my jaw falling off. You know, there were black women in Philadelphia who usually are a reliable vote for Democrat.
Yes.
And none of them were a reliable vote for the Democrat because they've been hearing the same thing time after time. Every election, you come after the black community, you want to get our vote, and what have you done for us? Nothing.
So they think they've been taken advantage of.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
And then, you know, you said, one woman said something very interesting. We need a strong leader in our country right now. Look at what's going on in the world. It wasn't happening 4 years ago. We got wars in Ukraine, wars in Israel, and stuff like that. You know, how is she going to deal with the other leaders in the world to help prevent war or solve war? And so basically, this black woman was saying, we need someone who'd stand up to the other leaders in the world and, you know, put the American position in play. And the MSNBC reporter was apoplectic. She didn't know what she was hearing.
I love it, and occasionally you see that, and I've seen it on the other side. I've seen it in Fox too.
You got 10 minutes,
Sometimes they ask a question,
10
and
minutes.
that's not the answer they really wanted.
Yeah, but all these women were just throwing stuff back at the MSNBC reporter.
And he didn't want any of that.
She was a she.
She didn't want any of that.
No. So you're going to see it on YouTube. I'm saying, what's
Have to watch
happening?
it. Yeah.
What's happening here?
Yep.
But like I had said earlier,
Yep.
the different
Interesting.
excerpts that we see now of interviews with the Democratic nominee, she's not answering the questions, and it's almost as if the reporters, whether they're liberal or moderate, feel empowered to push her to try to get an answer.
Well, it's also ratings, Evelyn. Don't forget that.
But they had the investigation with the FTC on the CBS one where they edited
Oh, that was
it.
terrible.
And so there may be some other kind of a ruling coming down there because what it's doing is it is skewing the answers to benefit the candidate versus having the candidate actually answer the question.
They took out a real answer and put in a little clip, you know, that made her sound like she was
So
answering.
we all remember 30 or 40 years ago when NBC did the exploding gas tank on the General Motors truck, right? You remember that one?
Yeah.
Remember that story? Okay, so the
60 Minutes, as I recall, yeah.
maybe it was 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
So the premise was General Motors is an evil, bad corporation, and they make exploding trucks, right? And so they tried many, many times to explode this truck's gas tank and film it, and it just wouldn't work for them. So what did they do? They put an explosive in the truck and they blew it up, and then they told everybody, well, it's because of the gas tank. So in other words, they lied and they were dishonest because they wanted the result that they wanted. Now, that wasn't just in the last 20 years. That was 40 years ago they did that. So why is anybody surprised that the major networks are biased and try to promote their point
You're
of
not
view?
surprised, but most people have
Okay.
an attention span of 5 minutes, you know, so they're going to listen to what they get hit with.
But I read
Totally.
history and I
know.
remember what happened, okay? And people's human nature doesn't
You got to
change.
get on television and tell people this.
People don't, I do, and so do you.
Oh, like now.
We just did it the other night, remember? And we're doing it now. But, you know, people don't change. I mean, human nature does not change, okay?
Well, it was almost a, you know, election interference for what CBS did to take out a long,
Yeah.
you know, rambling answer and just put in a little soundbite.
Yeah, they edited
Backing
it.
up to what Bobby said, people being afraid. Every year, whenever we cruise, we're gonna cruise out of New York. This is the New York pier where all the cruise ships park. So we always stay in this neighborhood. So I called my favorite hotel, talked to the guy, and he said, "Mac, you don't want to stay here. We have illegals and homeless loaded in the building, so you don't want to stay here anymore." That's what the guy told me when I answered the phone. So I
New
can
York City.
understand.
New York City.
You know,
I can understand why people are afraid to walk
Yep.
around.
and I just want to hit Glenn with one thing. I know we're running
Yeah, go
out of
hit me.
time.
Yeah.
I've said a lot about unions this year, okay? And when I seen the Teamsters not choosing the Democrats, that opened my eyes, because I know in this state, most prison guards,
it's
almost
unbelievable.
all prison guards that I know, state prison guards, which is about 5,000 of them, are all voting Trump. Police are voting Trump. And that's why I'm saying the unions will be a
Don't
big
get
issue.
overconfident.
Well, I'm going to be cocky this time because
Thank you for saying that.
I'm never overconfident. I want to go
Because
down
that's what
and,
happened last time.
I want to go down and
I don't have
vote
to
early
vote.
today, but my question to Glenn is, look at Boeing now. They want 35% raise over, I think it's 8 years maybe, or 4
It's
years.
4 to 5 years, I think, yeah.
But they're all looking for the real big money raises. And
Well,
that-
because of the inflation.
But do you think the unions will be a big part of this election? I do believe
I
they
will, and it's not the union management that's going to be a big part. It's just like you said, Bob, it's the union employees who are getting hammered by the 30, 40, 50% inflation across the board on buying gas, on doing everything else. You know, it's a whole energy policy. If you get the cost of energy down, everything has a chance of becoming less expensive.
Correct.
Because when you move goods, it's costing somebody money, and they're going to put it up on the price. So that's the whole thing with the energy policy, where somebody told me yesterday that Trump was the one that cut the Keystone Pipeline. That's ridiculous. But that's what they're hearing on the Democratic side.
When you got a CEO, David, this is Google, making
Calhoun.
$32 million a year.
He's not the CEO.
Well, this is Google,
says
man. You want to argue with him, go
okay.
right ahead.
It's former CEO.
Former, yes, got it.
$32 million. So when you got a salary, why not go for more money? Take it off the boss.
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't, because again, they're getting hammered by inflation. If they get a 35% raise, that just barely covers the inflation that they've had to suffer under the Biden-Harris regime.
So let me ask you
It brings
this.
them back to parity.
So if you took Mr. Calhoun's $32 million
And broke it out.
and divided among all the employees in Boeing, how much extra money would each employee get?
There's tens of thousands.
Probably less than $1, right?
No, it's gonna be more
They
than
might get, I don't know, $10 or something.
Okay, so it's not even worth talking about, all right?
I have family members that worked at Lockheed, and they've done
So-
very well in life. I think you worked there too,
Yes,
didn't
I
you?
did.
Yeah, so that's
And
another
I'm still
big
here.
outfit.
Yeah, but you guys forget, when you're looking for a raise, you pick on the boss.
Of course.
So,
Everybody
Mr.
hates the
CEO,
boss.
what was your total compensation last year from this company?
Everybody hates the boss.
Like the town manager. What's your town manager making?
I
It's
look
in
at
the
the
book,
book.
check it out.
230, I think.
Something like that.
Look at-
And so
yeah.
the guy who's driving the guy who's driving the fire truck says he made 200.
Some of the police officers make over 200. You know,
It's
but
usually the
they're
police-
spending a lot of
They're working.
overtime.
They're working. It's-
They're working,
yeah,
right.
It's overtime.
They
guys-
earn that.
You guys remember Bill
So is Mr.
Topia?
Cohen. He's working too.
You remember Bill Topia, one of our city managers?
Oh, yeah.
I was on the school committee with him one time, and we're dealing with pay raises for teachers, and I said to him, Glenn, I said, these step raises really confuse me. And he says, don't worry, Bob, that's just a way to hide money from the public. That's what he said to me. God rest his soul.
Make it so complicated, nobody can figure out what the heck
That's
is
what he
going
said,
on
they
here.
won't see it. He said they won't see it that way.
Well, we're running out of time here, but one thing I want to make sure that, you know, everybody that hears this broadcast knows, irrespective of who you want to support for whatever office in locally or in national elections, please get out and vote.
Yes.
Because, you know, the more people that get out and vote, the more whoever it is that wins will realize that they do have the support of the American people that voted for them. So
I think it's Sam's turn. This is from Carla Miller.
Carla Miller, yes, we know Carla. You're right, Bob. I'm not going to get along with Ed Markey's bad policies that are hurting Mass. Carla Miller, so we understand that Carla is running for office.
Right.
Right.
And she's been on my
Correct.
program, she's on
Yep.
yours. And that, like he said, we're running out of time. There's a lot of information that's out there for people to notice. We also noticed that the LA Times did not endorse a candidate for the first time.
shocking.
In
That
a
is
very long
shocking.
time. And there's a lot of other ones, heads of unions, that are not endorsing candidates for a variety of reasons. And, you know, you just want to watch it. I think sometimes Massachusetts is an island until itself, but we'll see how things, pan out. We haven't got that long to wait, maybe. Because the way that some votes are being counted in some of the states, you never know. It might be Christmas by the time we know.
Oh, God, I hope. I hope it's not 2000 all over again.
No.
Well,
No
and
more
then when they
hanging
talk about
chads.
how people didn't particularly care for what the vote was, please remember that Al Gore did sue because he thought he won against Bush, and he wasn't happy with that either. And I know that there's a couple of people that are out there that listen, and we have to remember
Excuse
that.
me, Tomorrow's host is going to be Cliff Krieger. Eileen Del Rossi is going to be here. Lavinia Friores is going to be here. And so a group from LASA is coming to talk about the free health clinic. Time is short, kid. Thanks.
Well, again, we just want to make sure that people get out and vote and know what it is that you're voting for, rather than some of the other things that are being brought up. When they start to accuse half of the country of being fascists or Nazis, I think that is a fear tactic. And if you happen to like living under fear all the time, then we know who you're going to vote for.
Just, I need a quick plug for Sam Chase, because a couple nights ago, he and I did a walkthrough on this book. Maybe you've already talked about it. But on Chelmsford Telemedia, we have a half-an-hour show that goes through every question in the Massachusetts, ballot question book. So if you can get onto Chelmsford Telemedia, it's on the internet. Just look for Chasing the Facts, the latest show, and I think you'll be well entertained for a half an hour with us going through each of the
Oh,
questions.
you'll be well informed. So thanks, Glenn,
Thank
for
you.
coming and all the information that you've given to us, and thanks to CM and Bob and John and anybody else that's out
Larry,
there
Curly, and
listening.
Mo, thanks.
Yes. Have a great day, and
Good day.
everyone stay safe.
See you tomorrow.
That was a good show.